Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Sales Development Podcast. I'm David Delaney, your host, and I'm joined today by my former boss, a sales legend in the community. I am so excited to talk to this guy, Jake Dunlap. How you doing today, man?
Hey, man, I'm doing great, man. It's always good to see you.
Oh my
You're looking
gosh.
young and spry as ever, and excited for the conversation.
Oh man, you got to invest in good lighting, good cameras, like you have. I mean,
Yeah,
you
that's
you
my
look
move.
amazing.
That's my move.
Dude, I love it. And we were talking about, I feel like I hang out with Jake a lot because if you're looking for the latest, like not the old school, sales techniques and strategy, but the latest cutting edge, bleeding edge sales techniques and strategies, you have to follow Jake because that is what you do every day. So, you
Appreciate that.
work with companies right now on their sales strategy with Scaled, and you just wrote a book. So how did you
Yeah.
get into this, and what do you do on a daily
Oh,
basis?
man. Yeah, the book is like its own thing. It's interesting. It's like I think a lot of people, to your point, because I do a lot on LinkedIn, they're like, "Oh, this guy just must be like an influencer or something," and that's like his full-time job. But no, Scaled's a 30 plus person company now. We've got people all over the US, Canada, um, UK. And, I like to think of the work that I'm focused on as sales performance improvement. And, I think why a lot of people don't like consulting or even doing big playbooks or tech overhauls is like, look, this should drive a business outcome. And so really what I try to orientate every engagement that we do, whether it's around, top of funnel outbound optimization, through the sales process and sales technology stack to account growth into what's the performance metric that this is going to impact, because that's so critical. And really what happened, you know, um, I originally signed a contract to do one book. And then as I started to do the book, um, I was like, well, this isn't the right thing to talk about. Let's talk about, innovative sellers. The name of the book comes out. I timed it to come out right on basically David's birthday. Obviously, that was a big part of it. And really, what
Thank
we're
you.
focused on is with this, we've got, and I'll talk about it in a little bit, some very tactical principles about how teams can move forward and how teams can start to think about creating a current go-to-market strategy, how to think about creating customized sales journeys, how to think about a more consistent sales optimization process versus kind of every 6 months to 2 year optimization process. So, really out of a lot of the work, from working with thousands of companies now over the last 11 plus years and seeing what's working, what's not working. It's taken almost a year and a year plus to write the book, but no ghostwriters. I wrote the book. It's my words. And yeah, thank God I wrote it. Like I'm publishing it now. So like I didn't miss out on Chat GPT or anything like that. So it's pretty all inclusive. So
Okay. And so I want to talk about that. But when you take a step back at Scaled, when people come to you and they have problems, what are some of the problems that they come to you with? And then how have you evolved, over the last few years to help them?
yeah, well, I think there's a couple of things in there. Look, we're the largest deployment partner for a handful of sales technologies. And, candidly, we've been doing sales technology deployment since 2015, 16. So nobody has done more, call it like sales technology optimization outside of CRM. I mean, we do a lot of that too than we have. And so, I think a lot of what I think about is the intersection of process and technology improvements where, okay, what's the goal? So it could be maybe, and to answer your question, probably 40% of our work is focused on companies trying to optimize top of funnel. Jake, how do we find ways to cut through the noise, generate more leads? It really started. I feel like for the first time, leaders are giving up. Like, I mean, I can hear it in their voice. They're like, we don't know what to do. And I'm like, the answer is really not that difficult. Stop hitting send all. Just stop hitting send all and have your team do this much customization. And so I would say like that mantra is something, we do quite a bit of. So how do we institute something that's scalable, but not 100% automated, which is totally doable? And then, the
Yeah.
rest of our products, revenue operations is like the word, but we firmly believe that everything is a process problem. So even when people call, Jake, we need to do our data, like, nope. what are we trying to, what is the outcome that this is causing? And how to, and because you might need to solve something with technology. It could be a standard operating procedure. It could be a change to your sales playbook. And again, we're one of the only companies in the world that's done hundreds of sales playbook optimizations and hundreds of sales technology deployments. So, usually it's like, Jake, we have this outcome we're trying to achieve: more lead, more meetings, faster sales cycles. Our data is a mess. We need to forecast more accurately so we can then go do ABC. And we make sure that we're solving the right challenges around why our forecasting is not right. So I would say, over the years, we've moved more upstream. A lot of private equity clients now, again, that are really focused on, hey, to get us to that next stage of growth, we're going to need to, optimize the way that the machine is running, and then making sure we're doing it in a way, again, that doesn't check a box and like, hey, you said to build this, we built this, or you said you needed a playbook, but instead is focused on the performance. And that's why I kind of always tie things back to performance, because that's really what good consulting and other things are all about.
Okay. And then when they come to you, do they have something in mind? They're like, we think that this is what the problem is, and we want you to kind of go down this path, but then you open it up and you go, no, dude, you need to go down this path instead. I mean, is that
Yeah, I mean, I think, sometimes people have a directional idea of where it is. We do this, we've got this maturity assessment. It's this kind of, and now actually it was 54 points. We just added an AI section as well. So now it's seven sections that we look at of the revenue organization, from, marketing through the way that we work with our current customers. So we have this process, but look, and this is something I think that could be controversial for some people. We don't just do assessments. I refuse to do them, because people are like, we just need someone to come and take a look at this, give us some insights. And I'm like, you're not going to do anything with it. Like we've done this so many times now where, and again, I haven't made this mistake in at least a year and a half, maybe 2 years now, because I promised I would not get suckered into it again, because you need to make the change happen. And look, it's really easy for anybody to come in and tell you, oh yeah, you should be doing this better, or here's some areas of opportunity. But you have to have the tactical execution to pull that thing through. And so in all of our engagements, usually people have a direction, David, like, Jake, we're not getting our outbound results. And look, from doing this for so long, and especially in this current environment, we already know in, I don't know, 7 out of 10 cases, what the culprit's going to be. And the culprit's going to be a combination of their sequence strategy. They're trying to automate everything, and it's, the reply rates are abysmal. And two is they don't have the data to actually optimize the process. They don't even know what's working or what's not working. And so how can you optimize it if you don't know that? And so I think just from doing this for a long time, there's just some typical culprits with a lot of this. And, we do the kind of holistic view, but I'm a big fan of action, if you can't tell, as opposed to,
I can't, dude, come on. I used to work for you. I know, I
you know
know.
that.
I would be scared if I was one of them and they were trying to say like, hey, I think we're not dialing enough. Or, we're like,
Oh, that
we're
drives me
coming to you
crazy.
with symptoms and you're like, dude, you've got, cancer here, or something like,
That happens actually a lot. That's a good example. I would say one of the more common conversations, and again, if we're talking about outbound, and I'll talk about the sales process too. Um, Jake, we need more meetings and we need to get our numbers up. And I
yeah,
say, okay, do you need to get your numbers up in terms of the number of meetings you're setting? Or are you terrified if I said, what if we actually are going to do 80% of the volume of activities, but we're going to generate more top of funnel? That
it's terrifying.
conversation is
Yeah,
debilitating for some leaders. And it's
yeah,
like, don't wait. Don't you just care about the outcomes? Don't you just care? Like, are we generating more meetings? If your current process, and we see the data, 0.2% reply rate, 0.4%, 0.6%, like the numbers are pathetic. And it's like, we've got to start to care about the outcomes more than we care about volume-based metrics.
yeah. And so in your process, if you feel like the people that you're working with are on the same page, that
Yeah.
we're on the same page, we want outcomes, and we're going to go back in and fix the process. And it might look weird to you because you come from the Oracle world of making a million phone calls, but what we're going to do is be data driven and fix the process.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, when people we're very adamant about this in the beginning of the process. So, um, if you want better email templates, you can go hire one of the many companies that's promising to like automate your emails for you and be AI enabled and generate more meetings for you by just copying and pasting. Um, the funny part is like that those plays aren't working, but these companies are so desperate and they want this automation so badly that they don't care. And so I think, we're very upfront about our strategies and processes that what we're going to do. And I don't know when this happened. And if, I know you follow my content, anybody listening, at some point, we started to say, if something's not automated, it's not scalable. And that single mindset shift is what's tanked B2B outbound. And look, I say this all the time. Look, Tesla has people on the production line. Most of the goods that you buy that are high end or whatever have people involved. And that's what outbound should be too. That there's all these things that we can do, but then the final piece is there's a human involved. And I think it's when people buy into that, they're like, okay, that makes sense. Like the person is here to do this. We're using these other tools to do this, but this person's going to be in the loop to do these other things.
Yeah. And you work with them to get them to that point so that they actually are empowered to be able to do that and they can pull through the results that you're talking about at the beginning of the
Yeah, exactly. And I think the key too is that you have the data to look at what needs to be optimized in real time, right? Or every 2 weeks. Where if your team, the analogy I always say is I say, look, if your team's spending $200,000 a month on Google AdWords, their goal is to generate qualified opportunities. And as a part of that, they're probably spending 10 to 20% of that budget just to optimize that spend. On the outbound, you're spending $200,000 a month on SDRs, same goal, generate qualified opportunities. And you're spending like half time of someone's time or maybe a big sprint every 6 to 12 months. You would fire your marketing agency tomorrow if they said that that's what they were going to put on your account. And we have to move to this concept and this idea that we need to be looking at subject lines every other week. We need to be looking at performance and reply rates every other week, and making changes in real time versus these kind of big overhauls. And that's really what it takes to cut through the noise today. Is that, it's not about who's right, who's wrong. It's about the data. And how do you move away from a gut-based, again, like I said before, you would fire your marketing agency if they behaved anywhere near what we allow sales to behave around, our optimization cycles, which is just like crazy to me.
And as an outside consultancy, you can come in and you can layer across all these different departments. Does it seem like the way that go-to-market teams are set up, the org structure, is that the problem? Because it just seems like, you've got all these different people moving in different silos. And then if you hire a consultancy, they can come and they can sort of align all these people because they're from the outside. There's nobody inside that can necessarily do that.
Yeah, I mean, we created RevOps with this idea, right? Like that
Yeah.
was the goal. But again, I think, you got to think back to, I mean, it wasn't that long ago. I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, we didn't have all these different groups, right? Like you had marketing, you had sales, sure.
Mhm.
But, the rep was generating their own leads, closing their own deals, and working with customers. And there's still plenty of teams. I mean, outside of SaaS, that's the model. And so, you didn't have all these silos. And the silos have just gotten thicker and thicker and thicker, over years to come. And so, yeah, sometimes as a third party, it is easier for us. The other thing is that the world's just gotten more complex. Rewind 10 years ago, literally just 10 years ago, what was the sales tech you used? You used
At
Salesforce.
Glassdoor, we had
Salesforce.
Salesforce, we had
Salesforce.
spreadsheets. Yeah.
Spreadsheets.
And I don't know if we had a data provider. We were just using whatever was in there.
Maybe a Jigsaw or something like that.
Jigsaw.
Data.com.
And then I know they had Marketo but they wouldn't let us touch it. You know, it was completely off limits from the sales.
Well, that was me. I mean, that I would
Yeah,
go back. I call that out in the book. I'm the only sales leader I think who ever bought Marketo because that was before sales engagement, and I
yeah,
saw the value in it. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, I can build really good templates, and that again. But the thing that we had at Glassdoor is we had proprietary data about each account, and so
yes,
every email that went out had proprietary data in it.
yeah.
You know, it wasn't like generic template number 7. And then sales engagement came out, and it was a better mousetrap than Marketo. But yeah,
Mm.
I want to say it's 2011 I bought Marketo, and we didn't and I don't even think we had marketing implemented. I think I just implemented it in sales. I think that's what
Very
I'm pretty
good.
sure that's what happened.
You were already an entrepreneur at that
I
time.
just look, I am the laziest hardworking person you'll meet. And that means that I am always looking for ways that we can generate ridiculous results by leveraging process and technology improvements. And
Mm.
the technologies exist. And I think that the other mindset shift, David, and I talk about it in the book too, which is one of the 4 pillars is commitment to technology and AI proficiency. And that's for sales leaders. That I think what we're also running into right now, David, is these sales leaders in these positions of power did not grow up with these tools. And they didn't grow up with these tools. They've outsourced their knowledge of them to sales operations people who have maybe implemented some of these tools 0 times or 1 time 2 years ago. And so they don't know either. And sales leaders and sales reps need to be learning these tools intimately. If I was an SDR and my company had outreach or, another tool, and I knew this is a tool that I was going to be using every day, I would get certified in it. Like I wouldn't need a boss or somebody to tell me. I'm like, okay, if I'm going to be in this tool, I need to be really good at using this tool. Like why? So we need to realize that this role of sales is now this hybrid of, the human plus the technology, and embrace it as a part of it.
The Iron Man. And then, okay, so I want to dive in. One last question is when you come into these companies and you see a lot of different tools plugged in and they're kind of connected, but there's a lot of leakage and they're kind of disconnected and nobody knows really what that does. I mean, does that make your head spin, or how do you rationalize all the technology that you see in these companies that you work with and make it, useful for that?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong. I mean, like it's not the technology's fault 9 times out of 10. It's the deployment. Sales
Hmm.
leaders, like, listen, if you're a sales leader and you're listening to me right now, I can tell you right now what we've seen. The sales leaders that consistently stay what I'm about to stay, which is we want this deployed like yesterday. You do not realize how poorly you are setting your organization up to fail at that technology deployment, because these tools are evolving so quickly that by the time you implement it, you've got to, okay, what's up next? What are they doing now? How is this tool consolidating with this tool? So
Hmm.
we know Salesforce takes whatever months, but for whatever reason, we think sales technology, you just like plug it in and like, oh, everyone can use it. So usually it's just like it's more change management, David. It's not the tech's fault. It's it's taking a look at, again, what was the purpose of buying this technology? What's the outcome we would like it to produce, the sales outcome, and how can we get the tools working together to produce that outcome? Whether it's better buyer intent data to have increase our hit rate, or higher quality data sets, or whatever it is. So I would say, look, we're just used to it at this point that it's going to be a nightmare. But you know usually you can kind of do a redeploy and it's fine. The biggest mistake people make is they rip out one technology and put in another one that does something very similar, and they're like, but this time it's going to be different. And it's like, dude, you
Yeah.
have to deploy it correctly. And if you don't take the extra time to deploy correctly, you pay for it later.
Okay.
You're going to pay
And
for it one way or another.
if you come in and you're like, hey guys, we're talking change management and training, you actually have to train the people on how to use these things. Are they just like, Jake sucks and get rid of Scaled, or what?
Sometimes,
I mean,
yeah.
it sounds like the dirty word is like
It does,
training.
right? It's kind of
Yeah.
crazy there, right? Again, it goes back
I don't
to
know why. I don't know why that
I
is.
well,
Yeah.
I think sales leaders always have a bias toward action, right?
Yeah.
And we
That's
also,
true.
and I know this because somebody who's been a CEO now for 11 years but still has a brain conditioned of a sales leader, we also can tend to oversimplify things. I mean, I'm making a pretty sweeping generalization and definitely speaking about myself, by the way. So I think there's not an appreciation for the ongoing complexity of these tools. And again, it goes back to because most sales leaders did not grow up with these tools.
Yeah.
Or they grew up with them. It's funny how many people still think these like sales engagement platforms are for emails. And it's like, dude, no, they can do so much more now. And so these tools continue to evolve and evolve and evolve and evolve. But because sales leaders aren't staying up on top of the trends, they're just kind of repeating the same mistakes over again. And it maybe used to be really easy to deploy these tools, but now they do 14 other things, and you paid a bunch of money for it to do 10 of them. So yeah, it's going to take a little bit longer. And then you've got a sales operations staff who's only implemented this tool 0 times or 2 times.
Mm.
And so sales also, I mean, obviously I run a firm that does a lot of this work, but if you hire experts and people who know what they're doing, your hit rate obviously goes up too. And it's why these companies, trust us to do their deployments and implementations too. But I think you just have to be an appreciation that these tools do a lot more now.
Yeah.
And because of that, there's just a little bit more duty of care and detail in how you deploy as a part.
Well, it really is. It's the missing link. So everybody call Jake. You're just stop messing around. Call Skaled and get this deployed correctly. Now you've taken all this stuff that you've learned. I mean, you're definitely. I mean, I don't want to say a guru, but like a sales expert, and especially in the very cutting edge stuff that we're talking about. And you've condensed it into this book that now I can buy it for $28 hardcover. Yep. I'm sure that there's a soft cover coming out. And I can get your knowledge in this book. So how did you come up with this, and how is it like laid out to help people?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few different, I guess, I don't know, inspiration / exacerbations maybe that I had over time that I was and I think too, it just helps to document and say, okay, here's a process, etc. It kind of started with a few areas. I talked a little bit about the consistent optimization. That has always been a frustration of mine. And so again, there's the 4 C's, which are, commitment to technology and AI proficiency, current go-to-market strategy, customized sales journey, and consistent performance optimization. So those are kind of the 4 tenets of the book. And how I got there, a bunch of different details, but one was the consistent performance optimization, that we move way too slow in sales for no good reason. We have enough data points to optimize. That was certainly one that I'm like, I need to be able to explain to companies that this is not that hard to do. And so I literally I have a chapter that literally bakes this out for you of how to build a consistent performance part of your organization. And then the other big one, and this will be the more controversial run, and I'm just stating facts, that the methodologies that we use today, one of the most prevalent is one called MEDDIC. And here goes the sacrilege for a lot of my MEDDIC folks out there. MEDDIC was developed in 1996. 1996, the internet was still just now becoming used in business everywhere. Buyers still made decisions on high. You could not buy something. You could not stream something. You did not learn about things while doom scrolling on TikTok. And today, we've all heard the stats. Buyers come to the process more educated. But the 3rd C, customized sales journey, says, no, guys. We have to have specific sales journeys based on how educated someone is. If I'm already using your competitor, I've already looked at your demo online, my call should be with your entire team to walk through a plan, how you can help me. If I come in cold, then I should start at the beginning to get educated. And right now we are B2B sales. And it's because, and I'll talk about why we're there. B2B sales puts everyone through the exact same conveyor belt. Whether I've already been educated, I was in a Slack group, I was texting back and forth with a friend, or you reached out to me cold and I'm like, yeah, cool, I'll take a meeting. And so we now have to create better paths, and you don't have to create 100. There's 5 or 6 you need to create that can quickly understand where someone is and meet them at that process. The same thing that we expect in our B2C buying experience. Whether it's we're going to buy a house, whether we're doing anything, we are focused on how can we increase speed, let people learn asynchronously a lot of these sacred things, and don't talk about pricing, don't make them wait for the demo. This is just not the world we live in anymore. And so we need kind of a new framework for how we work with customers, and this idea that we need to fast track people and meet people where they're at. And then the concept, and here goes sacrilege, the big one,
Okay.
this archaic concept that there is one decision maker, one champion, one economic buyer in a world today where every decision is made by consensus. Gartner's there's 8 people involved in even small deals. And so instead of, you have teams now, you have user teams that need to love you, and you need ROI and impact teams. And there's usually some overlap. And so we talk about in customized sales journey, how you need to identify the teams and get their buy-in, because there is no decision maker. Yes, there's a person sitting in a room who's got a big title, but the person who's the director right here, she can say no. She's the decision maker just as much as I am. And we have got to adapt these methodologies to be more flexible and more real and more realistic with how people buy today. And so those were my 2 big ones. We got to move faster with optimizations. There's no reason not to do it. Here's a blueprint. And then how do we catch B2B sales up to create a more B2C type experience, which I think consumers are going to demand. And then there's the optimization and tech piece too. But I think those 2 are my big catalysts. I'm like, I can't take this anymore.
So is your
I mean, my friends, go. If you're a leader listening to this or a rep, go talk to someone who buys software or go buy something and ask them how their last sales experience was. Most of you right now just cringed internally because you already know what I'm talking about. That this idea of withholding information, the fact that most companies don't have a self-service option, they don't have demos you can view online, and there's a million things. We've got to catch up. We're offering a 2004 experience in 2024, and the teams that figure this out will win. I mean, there's just no doubt in my mind.
It's amazing. It's so true, because we're used to the B2C experience all day, the way that we buy things. Yeah. Let's go. And so when you wrote this, are you writing this to talk to the leadership of sales and marketing, really? Or is this applicable to the reps as well?
Very applicable to reps. I mean, that's why I titled it Innovative Seller. That there are pieces that any rep can pick up and do tomorrow. And, so I wrote it as, again, methodology can almost be constraining, like a framework for how to, operate in a modern sales organization and how to build a modern sales organization. So, that's my, I tried to write it very intentionally with all of those people in mind. I really, really, really thought about okay, if I'm a rep, and I remember having those moments and I'm sitting here, I'm like, man, I can't do anything about this. What can I do? I tried, throughout each chapter, each section, I tried to really say, okay, what can I do to make this more actionable, more tactical, to where, look, can you go and fix sales and marketing alignment at your organization? Probably not. But I give you some advice on what you could do as a seller to help your life as a part of this. So, there's a lot going on there, but, like I said, I really tried to think of both people, similar to maybe even when you read the book, Challenge Your Sale, which, probably a lot of people do, which, by the way, was based off of data of how people bought in 2007. Challenge Your Sale was based on data for how people bought in 2007, 2008. Predictable revenue was based on how people interacted in the early 2000s. Guys, we are running processes
We're still using
that are literally 20 years old. There's been no, and again, why I'm so passionate, David, is logically, this has to be, hopefully people listening, whether we want to pick our head up out of the sand or not, that just think about how much the way that we buy as consumers has changed during that period. And once you have that realization, you can't unsee it. We have to have better ways for people to interact. We have to put customers and their experience first, not the methodology we want to deploy. And I think I provide a really actionable framework for people to do that.
And this could be like somebody calls you up and they go, Jake, we're making all these, nothing's working. Like, help us with our top of funnel. Could you potentially send them this book and go, hey, read this first and then let's talk, because then they
I
could
think
go
that
through. Yeah.
certainly there's some chapters we could earmark.
Yeah.
One of the chapters, one of the first exercises in once we get into the first C or the third C, customized sales journey, is a customer journey mapping. And I walk through exactly how we do it. Like, I mean, to a T, maybe even in more detail sometime than how our team does it at times. So
Yeah.
I think that exercise in particular is something that a team could lock themselves in a room and say, okay, if I was a customer, how do I find out about us? Okay, well, I come in here. Okay, if I come in here, then what should my sales experience? What should my customer experience be? And put the qualification criteria over here, and then we'll map sales journey to the preferred way to buy. You're going to move buyers through the process faster. Like, I really believe every B2B software should have self-service at this point. You have buyers. McKinsey put out a lot of really great data on this, and I've got it all in the book. McKinsey talked about like the threshold, David, where people are willing to self-service are like at like 30,000, 50,000, like, and
Wow.
then give me an amazing onboarding experience. Meet me there. So like,
Yeah.
where am I meeting you? And in the book, we call it VEX, which is there's vetted buyers, educated, cold, and self-service. And do we have a way for our sales journey to just meet people there? Right.
Mhm.
And some very quick and easy ways to understand where people are so we can show up best prepared, not just ready to qualify people, which I think is another gap. For some reason, this is another trend I've noticed is like it used to be about, we used to use terms like, consultative selling and things like that. And now I probably hear the word qualification more than ever. And so when you go into the mindset of consultation versus qualification, we've just trained a lot of reps, to go in with that qualification mindset. And so,
Oh my
it's
gosh.
no wonder that the quality of the conversations they're having, buyers are frustrated. You're making me talk to somebody who can't even add value on the first call. These are all new things. This isn't how it was even 10 years ago. We didn't run sales like this. So, and I'm not talking about like the good old days of 30 years ago or something. These are all relatively new phenomenon. Like some of these even less than 10. There was even sales engagement platforms 10 years ago. So all these changes have been like a whirlwind for B2B sales. And, that's where the book came from is like, this stuff is solvable. I've seen it. We've seen it. And now, hopefully we can share it with, more people where they can do something about it.
It's right there in a package. And it's interesting because, people still set up their go-to-market structure the same way from those books that you're talking about from 20 years ago. And then at the same time, they're like, we have diminishing results and we don't know what to do. Everything's changing right now. We better call Jake. I mean, it's like it's not working anymore. And people complain about the SDR model. Nobody wants to get SDR'd, and be qualified and then have to sit through this really lame demo and like the guy's not even asking any questions. So I hear exactly what you're saying too. And I mean, it creates an opportunity for you, right? Because you can come in and fix that for them.
Yeah. I mean, look, pre-order the book. You can fix
There
it
you go.
yourself for $32 with shipping.
Yeah.
And then we're actually going to have a bundle to where you'll get the audio book for free too. So if you're an Audible fan, if you buy the hardcover, I've learned a lot, David. We could do a whole podcast on like how to launch your book with a publisher and all the things that I've learned through that experience, which has been a whole other world on top of running a business and company every day and 60 meetings a week and posting on LinkedIn every day and all the other things. But no,
That's
it truly,
great.
I'm so glad I did it. And like I said, I really spent a lot of time with this book to make sure it was everything I hoped it would be. And as I've reread the drafts, et cetera, and where the final version now, I feel really good that it's going to be something that people can really take action on, which obviously bringing it full circle here is my mantra.
100%. And so I am really excited to get it. Are you going to read the audio?
I think I probably will. Yeah,
You
I think
have
that's the
to.
plan.
You can't outsource that.
I don't think I
I mean, it's
can.
got to come from the source.
I thought about it. You know, there's 11 labs. There's this really good AI that can imitate you, but it's not good enough. So yeah, I'll probably it's not the book's not too crazy long, so I can probably do it.
Okay, that is great. I am actually like I have a subscription to Audible, and that's like you can be walking the dog, you can be jogging, you can be doing all these other things because it's hard, to sit down and read a book sometimes. So it's great to have the audio too.
Yeah, and well, there's actually a lot of retention. Like even if you like do both, like if you're reading and you're listening, there's actually a lot of data around like retention as well too. So that's
Yeah.
another reason to,
I
buy it.
love it. And if you guys are not following Jake, again, newsletter, all the social media, the and now the book that's coming out, just the very practical, tactical ideas for how to be a modern, innovative seller. I can't recommend it enough. So, Jake,
Thank you. I
thanks for
appreciate it.
coming on the show, man.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thanks, everyone. Definitely, please go out, pre-order the book. You also get access. We've got an innovative seller community and circle, people talking about different parts of the book. And we're going to be doing a lot of different things around the book. Like I said, we're really trying to create kind of a movement around this toward, a new path forward for B2B sales. So buy the book, come join us there as well too.
We need it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.